Bitcoin has just smashed through $70,000, making a new all-time high, but something is different about this cycle, and I've devised this all-encompassing graph here to show you exactly what's different and what that means. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So there are 3 phases to each cycle, and I've colored them red, yellow, and green in order. So the first phase of the market in red is coming from the market bottom and sees the Bitcoin price crawling its way up to its first major resistance point, as you can see here in the first cycle back in 2012. So as you can see, once we break this first resistance, we start phase 2, which sees the Bitcoin price battle its way up to test the previous all-time high, typically after the halving. And for our first 3 cycles, as you can see, all happens after the halving. 56 days in cycle 1, 273 days in cycle 2, and 224 days in cycle 3. And finally, we have phase 3, which is the quickest and most explosive phase of the 3, usually resulting in a new cycle top after breaking the previous all-time high, which initiates this third phase. Now, if we take a look at cycle 2, everything seems to check out. We have our phase 1 from the bottom to our first major resistance. Once we break this resistance, we start our phase 2, coming up to test our previous all-time high after the halvening. We break that previous all-time high, and then we have an explosive phase 3 to create a new cycle top. But things start to get wonky as we start to look at cycle 3. Our phase 1 and 2 unhealthily got morphed into each other as we quickly left our phase 1 and exploded far into phase 2. But Bitcoin does follow a set of rules. As you can see, we came back and retested our red phase 1 before retesting our all-time highs after the halvening and exploding into our phase 3, making new cycle tops. But as you can see, this unhealthy and unorthodox phase 1 and 2 mishmash led to a very underwhelming phase 3 for this cycle, so keep that in mind. But now let's take a look at the mess we are in this cycle. So we started off good with a standard and healthy phase 1, coming up to break our resistance from our bottom. But then our phase 2 goes completely nuts, and we are retesting and breaking all-time highs before our halvening, which has never happened in Bitcoin's history. And technically, with breaking 70K and setting a new all-time high, this actually would be the start of phase 3. Again, before the halving, which has never happened before. And if you take the average times between the halvening and setting a new cycle high, you come out with an average of 183 days, means we are about 217 days ahead of schedule. As according to the other cycles averages, we should be getting a new all-time high sometime in the middle of October, with a new cycle top ending things off in August of 2025. So what does this all mean? It means that this cycle really is different, and we have to adjust and adapt and explore some new possibilities. The first possibility I'm seeing is that, much like cycle 3, where it's very unorthodox in phases 1 and 2, but eventually came back to retest those areas and follow Bitcoin's overall rules, I think the same could be happening here, and that perhaps phase 2 and 3 could be mangled together, and we could eventually come back down into this yellow territory before truly starting our third green phase. And with our RSI being high and our Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index also being very high, I think that there's a real possibility that we could dip down back into the yellow box territory before rocketing into our true third phase. Or perhaps this really is the start of phase 3 and we run a full phase 3 just with our time frame moved forward. And if we take an average of the past 3 cycles, how long the phase 3 lasted, we end up with an average of 296 days for our phase 3. So if we take that average and say that we are definitively starting our phase 3 right now, that moves our timetable up for our cycle top to end in December of this year, and for 2025 to be a bear market and then start a new cycle. But let me know in the comments which of the 2 possibilities you foresee coming true, and don't forget to like and share the video if you found this helpful and learned anything. Don't forget to subscribe, and this has been your forecast.